Welcome back to the channel. I want to make sure I'm showing up here for you guys. And it's really hard to do when we're trapped in our houses here in Mérida, Mexico. But I thought I would start doing some story times and really sharing my journey with you all. So today I want to share the story of what made me sell 99% of my possessions and travel the world full time with my daughters, which we did for 2.5 years. Because people often ask me about it, but I've never really talked about the journey, like what led me to do something which a lot of people would probably consider freaking radical, right? Like getting rid of your possessions, taking off on this crazy adventure with 3 little girls at the time, not knowing where it would end up, not knowing, anything, safety, money, all that kind of stuff. So this was back in, let me think, 2017. I had she was probably 5 months old at the time. I had just went through, and you're gonna hear my dryer in the background. Actually, let me go turn the dryer off, but you guys are gonna hear all the construction that I hear all damn day. It never ends. So it was 2017. My daughter was I don't know, my youngest was 5 months old. I think my oldest were 10 or 11. I could be totally off on their ages, but I know my youngest was young. And I had just went through a separation, right? I had sold our marital home. I had downsized into this little condo. And I was really struggling, in all aspects. I was struggling emotionally, physically, financially, with this new role of being a single mom for the second time in my life. So for those of you guys don't know, which is I think a lot of you guys, I was actually a teen mom and a single mom. I think we need another story time for that too, of my 2 oldest girls. And I was a single mom for many, many years until I married my then husband at the time of the start of the story, right? And I remember just feeling like a failure because I had followed the right way to do things, right? I was this teen mom and all this stuff. And then I got married. I went and got a degree. I bought a house, all this stuff you're supposed to do. So for my marriage and everything to fall apart and to be a single mom all over again, it was just what is going on? And for me at the time, single mom meant the end of the world, right? This is a life of struggle, depression, just misery. Because when I was a single mom, my 2 youngest, it was my 2 oldest at the time, it was such a struggle. It was so hard. So I never wanted to be a single mom again. And here I was, this single mom now of 3, and one of them being 5 months old. And I was devastated and broken and really struggling with the will to even live. In all honesty, I was in the darkest depression of my entire life. I was struggling to get out of bed, brush my teeth, shower. Anybody who knows anything about depression knows that those basic things, our basic needs, are really hard to do when you're feeling this unbelievable weight of darkness. I call it this just blanket weight of darkness that just fills you and surrounds you and weighs you down. And I was very much in this space, and my older 2 girls were struggling because they had switched to a new school. In the middle of all this, we switched to a new home, back to our old neighborhood that we had lived many years before, and a new school, and all in the middle of the school year. And, one of my girls, the teacher and staff was telling me if she can't get her grades up or if she can't pass this end of year test, the standardized test that a lot of people have to take, then they were gonna have to hold her back, which of course devastates a little 10-year-old, right? That's with her. It was such a crazy time. And I remember just one day being you know what? I can't take one more day feeling like this. I can't watch my big girls continue to struggle. We need to go on an adventure, just a little adventure. And at the time, money was super tight. I was newly single. And it was so unexpected, you know, like a lot of, you know, separations or divorces, right? So it's not, I didn't have any savings. I didn't have anything like that. I was retired from the military, medically retired from the military. So I did have my pension, thank goodness. And I remember just being like, we need an adventure, right? So I just started searching for Airbnbs. And I noticed that it was cheaper to travel during the week than it was during the weekend. So I saw this Airbnb. It was this like yurt over in Port Aransas, Texas. We were in Austin, Texas at the time, and I'd never been to the coast of Texas. So it was like a grand adventure. It was like a 5-hour car drive. I hadn't been on a road trip, I don't think, yet with my youngest, so it was gonna be really interesting. She was breastfed at the time and on the boob like nonstop. So, you know, road trip's like really scary, but we went in the middle of the week. I just told the girls we're skipping school and we're going on this road trip. And that's kind of a big deal because, you know, like they don't want you missing school, especially not for travel, right? But it was just cheaper. And we did that and we went on this trip. And it was wild and crazy and so much fun. And we laughed so much. And it was in those few days, I think it was 3 or 4 days, that we just forgot all our problems. And we felt joy. And we felt closeness with each other. And it was, you know, it seems like such a small trip, but it really was the start of this really powerful journey that was to come. And it was the first glimpse of like, I don't know, it was the first glimpse of joy and ease and freedom that I had felt in a while. I felt like we were rebelling the system because they pulled him out of school for it. I felt like, you know, we were just, I don't know, it felt really good, right? So we leave this amazing trip where we stayed in yurts and we walked on the beach, and it was a little small town, and we took a ferry and all this stuff, and we returned back to our little condo in Austin, and almost immediately we're hit with this sense of dread again, right? Like waking up each day, getting them off to school, and them coming home, and instead of us being able to spend time together, they were having to do freaking so much homework. Like, what is up with the level of homework that we give kids in traditional school? To me, that is crazy. They're in school for 8 hours a day and they come home and have all this homework on top of it, right? That was causing so much stress, in particular for one of my daughters, who at the same time was really struggling. One of my daughters really struggling with getting bullied, and she was having her own issues with depression and all kinds of things. But I remember just going right back into that space of like dread and everything. And it led me to the decision of homeschooling my kids first, right? So that's where we started. Is I just decided one day, like, I was done with these rules and this, oh, if they don't pass this end of year test, they're going to be held back. And every time we'd want to go do something, they couldn't because they had homework, and they were just feeling overwhelmed, and there was bullying and all this stuff, right? It just really frustrated me. So I like proposed to my girls, like, what do you think of homeschooling? And they were like, one was a little hesitant, but they both eventually became on board. I pulled them out of school. We started this really fun unschooling journey, which just gave us the freedom to just do fun things, which started like amplifying this joy and this freedom and all that kind of stuff. So I started with, I think the first day of homeschooling, we watched Hidden Figures at the movie theater. That was our first day. And it was so wonderful and so inspirational. And we started going to libraries, and then we took like a trip to Vegas. I had went to Vegas with my then husband at the time, that I was separated from twice, I think, and had so much fun. And the kids were always disappointed that they didn't come with us. So I was like, you know what? I want to change the memories I had in Vegas that were with my ex, and instead do that with my kids. And I found super cheap tickets during the middle of the week, and we went to Vegas, and once again had so much freaking fun. Like, you wouldn't think that Vegas would be a great place for kids, but it was. Like, all the different themes and the hotels and the lights and the excitement and the energy, and even the baby was just like loving life, right? We got back from that trip, and it's just like this crazy idea. I think part of it was I had stumbled upon this video by Lainey Liberty, And it was on unschooling and world schooling. And world schooling is this concept of traveling the world and learning from the world around you. I mean, you can do it without traveling the world, but she was traveling as a single mom with her son full time. And it's been like 13 years now. But at the time, I don't know how many years it's been. It's been forever that we've been on this journey, right? But yeah, she, from her son, like at 10 years old until now, he's like 22, 23. So I was just really inspired by this whole concept of world schooling, of travel, and I stumbled upon this world schooling group, and I saw these families traveling the world with their kids, and my thought was like, I want to do this, but how in the world can I do this? I'm a single mom, I'm on a limited budget, you know, I've got this massive car payment, I've got all this debt, I've got this condo that cost, you know, my house before it had cost almost $2,000 a month. The condo was, I think, $1,500 a month. And then you think of all the bills you have, like electricity, insurance, car payments, credit card payments, student loans, like all this stuff. It's like, how can I afford to travel? And then the idea was, well, if I got rid of the condo and I got rid of everything, right, then I could travel. We wouldn't have a home. You know, any money that I would normally use for a rental, I would have to use for the accommodations for the month. And by doing my research on Airbnb, I realized it was a lot cheaper to book for a month than it was to book for a week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks at times. So if you're looking on Airbnb, play around with the dates. And then I discovered this strategy I did myself, and then it's so funny because I read it in a book later for other things, that this specific way of writing that helps people just like agree to what you're saying. And I would then write and ask for a discount, but I would do it in this way. I'll have to share it in a different video, where they would like 99% of the time say yes to me and give me an additional discount on top of the monthly rental discount, which could be like 40 or 50% depending on the Airbnb. So yeah, I did all that, I researched that, and I'm just like, if I can get rid of this house and all these possessions, then I can literally travel full time. Like, we could go to places where cheaper cost of living. I mean, Mexico wasn't on my mind yet. I was so terrified of Mexico at the time because the news and society tells you how bad Mexico is, and a lot of you guys know my feelings about all that. But yeah, so I did it. Like, and it was funny because I was in a lease, right? But I wrote the owner, and I had already like wrote him this idea, like, how do you feel about, you know, me finding someone to rent the place or whatever? And at first he just really wasn't on board, but then he wrote me in the middle of it. So this is my thing about law of attraction and really, really being intentional with what you want. You're going to hear the construction again. Ah! But the thing about it is, I was set on this is going to happen. I don't know the how, but I know the end goal is I will be traveling the world with my 3 daughters full freaking time. I don't care how it's going to happen. It's just going to happen, right? So the landlord actually contacts me out of nowhere, seemingly. He's like, hey, you know, I just want to pose this to you, but how do you feel about, you know, leaving in the next month out of this house? And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, I think I'm going to sell it. They were having a lot of issues with like piping problems and stuff, and it sounded like it was going to cost a lot. And I think, you know, he caught wind to that. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, I'm down. I can leave in a month. And so that set the trajectory of, we have 1 month to sell all our possessions and get the heck out of this condo with no idea of where we would even go, like for our trip. We didn't have passport. I had my passport. My kids did not have passports at this time. I was not divorced yet. And it was very, very toxic what was happening between my ex-husband and I. And I'm not saying that's changed that much, but it was very, very, very bad. And yeah, so anyways, I did it. In that month, I just started listing stuff on Let Go, on Craigslist, and they were selling, but I was actually starting to struggle with some of the more sentimental things, like, I don't know, my daughter's crib and my books. So I then joined the groups, like their no-buy groups or no-sell groups where you just give stuff away. And I really felt good about just giving stuff away. That helped me get rid of my possessions. And people ask me all the time, like, where do I even start? Like, yeah, you can start with listing your stuff on Craigslist, on Let Go. Some people even do eBay, right? but you can also give. Selling your stuff is a great way to like build some savings for your travel or your move abroad. But I felt that giving really just helped me release the emotional attachment I had to my things, because getting rid of stuff you've had for so many years can be really challenging, especially my books. Oh my goodness. So I went and wanted to just drop all, that was one of the hardest things to get rid of, my books and my plants. Got my plants back here, I got them all back. So I remember I took my plants, my books, all of them. I had a very large book collection, loaded them up in the back of my minivan, took them to this donation bin that was right by my house. And I just put them all in there because I couldn't even wait for people to come pick them up. I just wanted to put them all into the donation bin. And it was an outdoorsy type one. It had a cover, but it was still like outdoor. And I figured someone would come snatch all these amazing books up today, right? Well, that evening, this massive thunderstorm rolls in, and I just remember thinking in my head, like, I am praying that somebody got those books. But I went to the bin, like right in the morning, I went back to the bin, and they were all destroyed by this thunderstorm. So that is what happened with my books. Anyways, we managed to get rid of, like I said, 99% of our possessions. Everything else fit into the back of my little minivan. And I think the first thing we did was we stayed at this community in Austin, Texas. It's amazing. I can't think of the name of the community, but I will write it on the screen. And it basically was this tiny home community for the formerly homeless in Austin, Texas. So they have to pay for their tiny home. They have to work within the community. It had chickens. It had these RVs and these tents, like canvas type tents with bunk beds and air conditioners. That's where we stayed, in one of the canvas tents with like an air conditioner and bunk beds. We had so much fun. It had a cute playground. It had like a life-size chess thing. It was amazing. And then from there, so I had a little bit of savings. We flew to my grandma's house in Orlando. We did Disney World, something I always wanted to do with my girls. And then from there, we hopped over to Puerto Rico for a month, which was our first like big trip. And that's a whole nother video on its own. But this was like, and because Puerto Rico was like a wild experience. I thought, I'm gonna pick something where you don't need a passport. A lot of people don't even know that. You don't need a passport if you're a US citizen for Puerto Rico because it's US territory. I thought, oh, their national language is both Spanish and English. Everybody will speak English. It won't be culture shock, nothing like that, right? Woo! It was like, from the second we got there, I was like overwhelmed with culture shock, with the language barrier, with everything. And it was just a wow. But we left there transformed and knew that we had to continue on this crazy wild journey, which we did, y'all. We have had so many stories that I plan on sharing over the next month to give you a clear idea of travel and living abroad. A lot of people never share like these struggles and the hardships and the things that go wrong, because I'm going to tell you this, it won't be perfect. It will not be perfect. There will be rough times. Things will go wrong. You can try and plan as much as you want, and the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, like life, it will just go in the direction that it wants to go. And you've got to be able to adapt and pivot and all this good stuff. So that was our journey, right? That was the first start of our journey, and then it went into like a road trip. I got divorced on this road trip over the phone with the judge, and I don't want to talk too much further in this video, but that was what made us, all that at the beginning was what made us get rid of all of our possessions and start this journey around the world. If you want some more story time videos, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe. Please share with any friends you have that might be interested in lifestyle, travel, living abroad, single mama life. And yeah, until next time.